And now David will give us our scripture for today.
Today's reading is from the Gospel according to Luke, chapter 8, verses 22 to 26. And it came to pass, on one of the days, Jesus went up and sat in a boat with his disciples, and he said to them, "Let us cross to the other side of the lake." And while they were rowing, Jesus fell asleep. And there rose a storm of wind on the lake, and the boat was near sinking. And they came up and woke him, and said to him, our teacher, we are perishing." He got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and they quieted down, and there was calm. And he said to them, "Where is your faith?" But as they were frightened, they wondered, saying one to another, "Oh, who is this man, who even commands the winds and the waves, and the sea obey him?" And they rowed and came to the country of Gadarenes, which is on the shore opposite Galilee. And now Reverend Macaulay will give us our lesson sermon.
Well, good morning. Today's lesson is on finding our spiritual place in the physical world. And in preparing this morning's lesson, I noticed that I have a pattern of beginning to focus my thought process on the news of the day. When I realized that, I came up with all sorts of explanations as to why I do that, and almost as if to justify my actions. But the news of the day is something that I thought we all had in common, but I'm not sure if we do or not. It does give us common thoughts, and in the recent news, we've heard of all kinds of tragic disasters and events, and there's a whole list of them which I really don't want to enumerate because I don't want to fill your consciousness with tragedy. But we've just celebrated the 40th anniversary of Earth Day. And on that first Earth Day, scientists were encouraging us at the time to think of our planet, Earth, as spaceship Earth. And what that meant was that there was a need for a dramatic shift in consciousness. And we had to change our consciousness from there's an endless supply of everything on Earth to there is a limited supply of everything on Earth, and we must reuse, recycle, and protect our resources for future generations. We could no longer assume that there was an infinite supply of everything available to squander recklessly. As metaphysicians, we take the approach, God is, I am, abundance of enough and to spare for my every need now. In our consciousness, we always opt to fill our universes with enough and to spare. But Earth Day was more about taking responsibility for our home. We've come to realize that enough and to spare can be a good thing, and sometimes it can be not so good. For example, I have a collection of plastic shopping bags at home that continues to expand, and I have these reusable bags that I keep in the car, and I try to remember to take them in the store with me, and of course it isn't until I'm standing at the checker line that I realize, oh, I forgot the bags, and now I need to use plastic bags. So those bags keep accumulating, and I have an abundance of them at home. I spent some time this week cleaning all that stuff out, and that was too much abundance, maybe not a good thing. So the idea of Earth Day was to remind us that we all have to take responsibility for our home and take care of it. The healthcare debate reform continues. We're still cleaning up after 3 earthquakes. There was a volcano in Iceland, which wreaked havoc around the world. And this morning, I guess they found a truck of explosives in Times Square and had to evacuate Times Square in New York. They're not sure whether it's a terrorist attack, but it's a good chance it's likely. So the last time I spoke, I was thinking about this same lesson. And the other question I found myself contemplating in hearing all this news of turmoil was, how could it be that I'm unaffected by all these events? And I know that I'm realizing radiant, vital, dynamic health. I know that my life is filled with perfect harmony now. I know that I'm realizing the abundance of enough and to spare for my every need now. And I know that the events and circumstances in my life are manifesting in perfect right action. And I continue to express gratitude for all my blessings. I know that my life is filled with blessings, yet when I turn on the news, I don't hear anything about these blessings. I only hear about the disasters. Now, when I say that I'm unaffected by all these events, I don't mean to sound cold and heartless. In all the tragedies in the recent news, many have lost their lives and loved ones, homes, and have experienced tragedies that I can't even begin to comprehend. I know that there are also those out there who refuse to listen to the news because it's become so overrun with advertising and non-news that it becomes difficult to discern actual news from advertising. So I guess the question that I'm working on is, where do you go to start to prepare for a sermon? Do you think about your own universe? Do you think about the universe that we see on television? Do we think about the universe, your universe, whoever's out there watching, listening? And I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to that yet. It may be a place to start, and there are times when the news seems to affect everyone, and that commonality gives us a place to start. On the other hand, sometimes I go into meditation and I ask, tell me what they need to hear. And often that approach is successful as well. In meditation, one of the things that we often recall is that we are spiritual beings living in a physical universe. And sometimes we say that we live in this world but are not of this world. We have the choice to think as we choose. And the internet now provides access to literally thousands of sources of information. And it's up to us to use our ability to discern what we see and look for in the truth, and to separate ourselves from what is not the truth. I'm sure you can watch the pundits on TV, and if you like the tie the guy is wearing, you may choose to agree with him. On the other hand, if you don't like the hairstyle or her dress, you may choose not to agree with her. Sometimes we make choices like these. Other times we analyze the problem, look at the alternatives, and use our mind to draw conclusions. I encourage you always to think for yourself.